Today's episode is brought to you by the Whole Life Decluttering Workshop, featuring a proprietary 6-step system, the Simple System, to help you declutter your life in a way that will last. Purchase this workshop on demand and receive the video training and dedicated workbook at positivelyproductive.com/resources. As a compassionate, holistic productivity coach, I focus on productivity with a person-first perspective. Shame-free productivity is an approach that prioritizes well-being and self-compassion over relentless work and self-criticism. It rejects the hustle and grind mentality, which often leads to burnout, stress, and a negative relationship with our work and even our goals. You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems, and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life, with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm so grateful you've joined me today because today marks the 250th episode. A very small percentage of podcasts make it to that number, and it's honestly surreal. I have so much to celebrate when it comes to this podcast, including over 36,000 downloads and a ranking as a top 3% show globally. And I didn't get here alone. I've had a phenomenal team at Galati Media helping me this whole time, and a collection of incredible guests. And you. You are a huge part of this success, and I'm so grateful for it. I feel compelled to mention, too, that I got to this point because I kept putting one foot in front of the other. It's easy to think about the big numbers and impressive milestones, but right now, I want to remember that moment in May of 2020 when I was recording the first set of episodes and getting ready to promote and launch the show. I was so nervous and hoping someone would listen. All I could do was start with the recording that first episode and then doing that again and again. One episode at a time, one promotion at a time, one guest at a time, one rebrand and update at a time. I kept going, I kept refining. I course corrected when something didn't work, and believe me, lots of things didn't work. I made mistakes and learned a ton, and I'm still adjusting as I go. But the most important thing I've done in all of this was to approach it with self-compassion and appreciation for what I've been doing this whole time. After all, I created this podcast during a global pandemic and kept it going as the world changed and shifted, as my world changed and shifted. We've gone through so many highs and lows since then, and we're not done. I maintained this podcast during sickness and loss, during caregiving and major mental health crises for myself and those I love. I have episodes that are the most popular. They've done so incredibly well, and I'm so proud of them. And others that were amazing to do but have faded since then. They didn't hit quite right. I've promoted some incredibly well, and others not so much. I've let go of what didn't work, forgiven myself for not doing what I had planned, and understood that my pace is my pace. I've done the very best I can, and now, years later, look where I am. All of that is a prime example of today's topic, shame-free productivity. As a compassionate, holistic productivity coach, I focus on productivity with a person-first perspective. Shame-free productivity is an approach that prioritizes well-being and self-compassion over relentless work and self-criticism. It rejects the hustle and grind mentality, which often leads to burnout, stress, and a negative relationship with our work and even our goals. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that the only way to achieve our goals is through that constant hustling, pushing ourselves where we feel guilty or ashamed when we fall short or need to take a break. This traditional approach often involves setting rigid schedules, imposing strict rules on ourselves, and measuring our worth by our productivity. If we don't meet those self imposed demands, we feel like failures. And we're linking our perceived productivity, which may or may not be accurate, to our worth and pushing ourselves beyond our capacity. This is a recipe for burnout. And instead of boosting productivity, it boosts anxiety and often makes us resentful for what we're even trying to achieve. Even if we really want those goals, there's a lot to question here. See if this sounds familiar. An example of the hustle culture approach to writing a book would be setting goals of, I must write 2,000 words every day, no exceptions. If I miss a day, I'm lazy and will never finish. I can't let up. This kind of thinking can quickly lead to shame and discouragement when life gets in the way. And here's the thing, it will get in the way. You will inevitably miss a day. How do you respond to that? If you take this approach, it's far more likely that you'll quit. And that's the opposite direction of being productive and achieving your goals. Shame-free productivity is about approaching your goals with self-compassion and understanding. It's about recognizing you're human with limitations and needs, and that's okay. It's about building systems that work for you and around you, not against you. Now, let's revisit the book writing example with a shift in this perspective. A shame-free approach might look like this. I want to write a book, and I'll aim for 2,000 words a day, whenever possible. Now, some days I might have time for 500 words, maybe even none at all. I'm going to need a break, and that's okay. I'll listen to my body, honor my needs, and celebrate everything I do. I will keep showing up every day and try for those 2,000 words if I can. And even if I write 5 words, that's okay, because it's progress toward my goal. Shame-free productivity is not only a gentler, kinder approach, it's actually more effective. That's not to say that hustling and pushing can't help you achieve things. The problem is there's a limit. And because burnout is so likely, you may undo the work you did and maybe even make things worse than when you started. One of the original productivity books I read was The Productivity Project by Chris Bailey. In it, the author explains a variety of productivity techniques and shares his experience trying them. One of my biggest takeaways was the chapter on working overtime. We often think, we'll just do more, we'll work more, we'll work longer, and we'll get more done. And he tried this, but the results were rather straightforward and very sobering. When you add extra hours, you can get more done for a limited time. Then your productivity tanks. So, burning the candle at both ends indefinitely may make you feel like you're doing something. A lot of times it's psychological because we're keeping busy, we're moving, we're making an effort, and we think that that's a good thing. But in the end, that's busy work, not being productive. The thing you succeed most in when you do that is making yourself exhausted. Now let's consider 3 key reasons why shame-free productivity is most effective for getting things done. First, it's sustainable. That's the biggest takeaway here. It focuses on long-term well-being and avoids that unsustainable cycle of overwork and burnout that's so common in that traditional hustle approach. The tactics that you use are ones you can do for the long haul. Most of the things we're trying to do are a marathon, not a sprint. That translates to stronger habit development and more momentum built. And when you consider that it's longer term and you're forgiving yourself and you are being kind to yourself when you fall down, it means you will keep it going. And it is a numbers game when you think about the fact that the more you show up and keep showing up, even if you don't do well, the more you are likely to achieve because you haven't given up. Another reason why shame-free productivity is most effective for getting things done is it promotes optimal focus. So not only does this approach build momentum and help us with that habit development, you also get the benefits of building a positive mindset as you go. Things like self-compassion are tools that will help our brain recognize and promote positivity. This actually increases focus and creativity, and that in turn equals boosted productivity. The third reason I want to mention today is that it actually protects you. What do I mean by that? Well, any method that acknowledges that rest, self care, and your personal life, your values, what matters to you, who matters to you, that those things are essential for productivity. Any method that acknowledges all of that is going to be better for you, healthier for you. This means you get to do the things, have the success, all without sacrificing your health. Chronic stress is proven to cause chronic health issues, and by choosing an approach that prioritizes lower stress, you're protecting yourself. Okay, now let me call out the elephant in the room. When we're talking about shame-free productivity and self-compassion and forgiveness and kindness, it can sound a bit like you're letting yourself off the hook. I mean, there is something to the idea of pushing yourself, seeing how far you can go. I'm not talking about avoiding hard work. This approach isn't about being lazy or unproductive or letting yourself get away with things. It's about prioritizing well-being alongside of pushing yourself to achieve goals. Instead of hustling and grinding and wearing yourself down because you're not letting up, instead you're sprinting. You're pushing forward and then pulling back and recovering intentionally. That's why I love the word sprint, because it sounds just like that. You go fast for a bit and then you step back. There's a give and take, a push and pull. You're leaning into what works for you and what energizes you, which I talked about last episode when I listed 5 habits that energize you. And all of that means that you are taking into consideration not only what you want to do, but what you need. No matter what goals and systems you have, no matter the details of your life, you are first and foremost a human, not only with needs, but a human worthy and deserving of compassion and love from others and from yourself. And when you focus on your needs and honor how you work best without the shame or guilt that really has no place and no use, you can actually create more effective, sustainable systems and then achieve more as a result. This is a win-win. A shame-free approach acknowledges that life happens and it's okay to adjust. You can still have goals and deadlines, but they're flexible. This method allows for creativity and it avoids burnout. You're more likely to stick with it, as I said, less giving up and more pushing forward, but with the things that you need to do so, not because you're driven by fear or guilt. Again, it's about building momentum and having sustainability. How does that sound to you? Does it sound wonderful? Does it sound impossible? Is it something you'd like to try? Well, the place to start is something that we talk about a lot on the podcast, so you have tons of resources to help you. Self-discovery. You need to learn what matters to you and how you work best. Self-awareness. Pay attention to how you feel throughout the day. When are you energized? When are you drained? What time of day are you most productive? Have you ever noticed that? What kind of environment helps you focus? Do you love being in the center of everything and find it energizing and it helps you get into your work? Or do you need absolute silence most times? Do you need to be away from everyone for a while, but you get restless if you are away from them for too long because you're an extrovert, but you also need to focus on what you're doing? Pay attention to what happens and where you feel that you are most productive. Make notes of these things. Also, make notes about what helps you feel inspired. Or sometimes it's easier to tell what doesn't work. Like, when do you feel drained and less productive? What makes you feel resentful? Think about what you value and what makes you feel like you're doing something really good in this world. What do you love? What lights you up? What could you do over and over again and lose track of time? What brings you joy? If you'd like help learning how you work best, if you'd like help with these questions, I have a free resource that will get you started. The Positively Productive Toolkit is a collection of workbooks that guide you through self-discovery and self-awareness, helping you identify and assess different aspects of who you are, like core values, tendencies, strengths, and identifying what energizes you and what brings you joy. There are self-guided workbooks and lots of links to different assessments, and you can do so many of them in minutes. Check out the resources page of the Positively Productive website to request the toolkit, or type positivelyproductive.com/toolkit into your browser and you'll go directly to the landing page. As we wrap up, please remember that shame-free productivity is about being effectively productive in a way that honors your humanity. It's my focus for every conversation on the Positively Living podcast and my promise to you to help you create sustainable systems that allow you to achieve your goals without sacrificing your well-being. I encourage you to try it. Be kind to yourself, honor your needs, and celebrate every step you take. You'll be amazed at what you can achieve when you work with yourself, not against. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback or questions, you can find me through the Connect page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And if you're looking for any of the resources mentioned here, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.